So one of the interesting things that I've learned, because that is a really good question, is that the majority of businesses, when they are looking to get new customers, they are making the mistake of trying to enter that conversation really late in the process. So instead of, and let's use the floor coating guys as an example. So instead of getting in early and presenting somebody early with the a problem that they're having, let's say that the floor is just ugly, and they just want to spruce up the garage, make it look a lot nicer. Instead of getting into that conversation early, they don't do any marketing to say, if you're having this problem with your garage, then you could do this or you could do that. What eventually ends up happening is that they give away the potential of being what I call the ACE. So that's the authority celebrity expert. Now, what do I mean by that? If you think about your home physician, so you'll go to your home physician or your primary care physician if you've got a cold or anything else. But a lot of people will go to their primary care physician and they will say things like, well, I was watching TV and Dr. Oz said this. Well, why are they doing that? Like, Dr. Oz has never examined them. Dr. Oz has no idea who they are, even though they exist. But it's because Dr. Oz is on TV and my doctor's not. And because my doctor is perceived as an authority and a celebrity and an expert, and my doctor's not, Dr. Oz has a higher position in that person's mind than their own physician does, which is absurd, but it's just the way people work. So what happens is the floor coating professional is going in as not being the authority, not being the celebrity, not being the expert. And what happens then is it all comes down to price, and they just get ground on, well, this other guy said he could do it for $1 a square foot less, and it would only take him a day, and all these different things because you weren't the one that got them going. So the solution is to enter that conversation that they're having way earlier, so that when they're getting all their information, when they're doing their researching, when they're trying to find out, what does this take? Do I want an epoxy floor? Do I want a polyaspartic floor? Do I want full flake? All these different questions they're going to ask. If they are getting that information from you versus from the other guys, you may still have the person saying, I've compared you to two other people. You're more, can you match it? That kind of thing. But there's two parts to that. One of which is, first off, you have a position whereby you probably don't have to be lower in price. You just have to be close. And I know I've paid more for things because I perceived that the quality that I was going to get and the expertise I was going to get was worth paying a little more than the absolute cheapo guy. Now, will there be exceptions to that? Absolutely. But here was the big difference is, if you're the person who's out and you are now the local authority celebrity expert, you're the local ace when it comes to floor coatings, you may not get every job, but you will likely be given the opportunity to quote on darn near every job. Now, if you think about the math, if 100 garage floors were going to be coated, how many times would you get the opportunity to quote on those 100 floors? Well, depending on how their search terms worked and where they lived and what their friends said, you might get a shot at 10 of them. And let's say you're working, you get 1 out of 3. So you're going to get 3, maybe 4 jobs out of those 100. But now imagine if out of those 100 potential jobs, you're being asked to quote on 70 of them. And you've got more leverage to get more money than the rest of them. I guarantee you, your business is going to be doing really, really well. Now, the second part to that is, all right, that sounds great, but how do you do it? And this was how I grew one of my businesses, and it was by creating, and it took a long time to figure this out, and it wasn't, the getting it figured out was not cheap, but we figured it out. So what I would do is I would create content. I would say, for example, where I lived, there was a lot of salt on the roads, and the stub walls in the garage, particularly on the left side, because that, people would park to the left, they'd get out and their foot would be continually stepping in water and splashing the wall with that salty water that was falling off the car. So it would really chew up the stub wall in that area, and it would get all crumbly. And so we would say, is your wall crumbling next to where your door is? And people would go in the garage and they'd look and they'd go, it is. How did he know, right? And so we would put out content, and what we would do is we would write a fairly detailed article on our website where I was the expert. I was talking about how to, what caused the problem, how to solve it, that kind of thing. Then what we would do is we would take that content and we would now put it out on social media, so that we would see, first off, who was reading it, who was engaging it. We'd put it on Facebook, we'd put it on Instagram, we'd put it on Twitter, LinkedIn, you name it, we'd do it. We would also email it to everyone that we had in our list, both customers and prospects, because customers are a great source for referrals. And when they go to someone else's place, it's like, hey, do you know that you have this problem in your thing? I should refer you to Richard. That worked really well. Then all of those people we didn't give them all the information in social media. We had it so that they would get partial information, and then after there'd be the little read more. They would have to now go to our website. So this was the second part. Now we're getting lots of traffic to the website, instead of, originally you get virtually no traffic to your website and you think, my website's garbage, I need a new website. And you don't need a new website. You just need to put things on it that people want to engage with. Once that was done, we would put some sort of a lead magnet on that page that was relevant to what they were doing. So we would give them 5 steps you can do at home to stop the stub wall from crumbling from winter's salt, for example. And it would be, you give them the first 2 and they could see the list, but in order to get the other 7 things that were on the list, they would have to give us their first name, last name, email, phone number. Do some of them give you the wrong information? Yeah, it's going to happen, no big deal. But the majority won't. So what do you do when they send you, when you see that they've asked for that information? Our system would immediately send it out to them saying, hey, here's your list. Thanks very much. How can we help? It would also tell me the moment they downloaded it. So as soon as they would click to download that thing so they could read it, I would get a text message to my phone saying, hey, Bob Brown just downloaded this checklist, give him a call. And I would phone them and say, hey, I noticed you looked for this thing and about the crumbling stub wall. Is there any questions you have? And they'll be, oh, that's amazing. I just downloaded your checklist. I'm like, really? Imagine that. And now what happens is now I get to have that conversation. So I was given the ability to talk to prospects way before anyone else did. And it allowed me to build more rapport. There was never any, you should do this now. That, we made ourselves the expert choice. We did things that the majority of our competitors would never do. And as such, we were really, really busy, which was great. We also were able to raise our prices substantially. And, when you're talking a 400-foot garage and we're $3-4 a square foot higher than everybody else, that's a good chunk of change. And especially when you're doing, when you've got 3 crews out and you're doing 2 or 3 garages a day, it adds up really quick. And it made all of this effort, the return on the investment we made up front, it paid for itself very, very quickly. It's going to depend on different markets, but typically a month, maybe 2 on the outside, and all of the work paid for itself. And that's the process that we now do for our clients, is we build all this out so that they're posting to social media regularly. When somebody reads it on Facebook, now they're clicking, they're going to the website. The website's getting more traffic, which makes it rank higher for SEO. So when somebody does a search, garage floor applicator near me, now their site's starting to move up in the listing so that they're now on the first page organically. You're not having to pay for that because Google is seeing that there's traffic to this website. your website, and they are seeing that when people get to this page, they're staying on it for a while and reading it. How do we know that? Well, because they read half the article on Facebook, they got to sit there and read the second half on yours. And then what we did later was we started adding video to it, and you'd get them to sit on that page for 3, 4, 5 minutes. That is a really, really strong signal to Google that your site is informative and it ranks really quickly. And it ranks a lot faster than anyone else does. So what happens is when you have multiple pages, so let's say you address the dissolving stub wall, you have another one for removing the oil stain off the floor, you have another one for making the stairs look nice, all the different things you can put. When they stay on your site, each one of those is a separate page, which means it's a separate line for Google, which means you're pushing all your competitors off the page, except for the ones that want to pay. Then they're going to be at the top and the bottom. But now they're paying for that. You're not. So that is the process, and that is what we do for our clients. Now that I don't do the flooring myself anymore, we talked about that on the last call. Was when my divorce went through, my coating business kind of blew up on me, and it helps because having been in that niche myself, I really understand the client well. And it's just because of, as you can tell, I'm not young. I'm a lot of gray hair now. I've been doing this a long time. So, the 3 things you got to do. You have to identify the areas that are the pain points for the client. You don't talk about the product. They don't care if you tell them about tensile strength and elongation and permeability. They don't care. They absolutely don't care. What they want to know is, can you make my floor look nice and will it last? And how much? That's really what they want to know. So you answer those questions. You build everything so that every step along the way is being optimized. That's step 2. And then step 3 is you have to have some sort of automated follow-up system, which is exactly what we built. Now, do you have to do that? No, absolutely not. If you're okay being in one of those areas where you're going to be one of 3 people that get phoned and now it's strictly a price war, you're going to get 2 things. You're going to get hammered on price. You're also going to attract really crappy clients, the ones that will bitch, they'll whine, they'll complain, they'll give you a 1-star. I don't want those. Quite frankly, I'm very happy to give all of those customers to all of my competitors because I don't want them. I want the ones that pay fast. I want the ones that are grateful, that they love to deal with, love to work with you. Those are the great ones. And that's when you have this system built this way, that's what you get. You become the person that everyone wants to go to. Everyone wants to go to the guru who sits on top of the mountain seeking wisdom. And when you have that position, it's really, really easy to do that. Now, just to end, as I mentioned, we now do this for other clients. If this is something that you have an interest in, we would be happy to talk to people. We're not for everybody. I'm first one to admit it. When we start a phone call, we tell everyone right up front, if this isn't for you, just say no. It's fine. We'll tell you exactly how to do it. It's just that most, and I know from experience, when I was doing floors, getting the time to do all this was really, really tough. And it was actually far cheaper for me to create my own marketing company and outsource it to myself, which sounds kind of weird, but that's how we ended up doing it. And that, of course, that was actually how this business got started, was we spun it off of the other one. And, we have that conversation now, and it's, I don't believe in long-term, there's no 12-month contract. So it's month to month. You use it as long as it works. And that's as simple as it is. So hopefully that helps. If you have, are there questions that have come in, and let's deal with those.